see you?
I'm trying to think the last time we
It's been a
talked.
while. It's
Years.
been a while. Yeah, it's
been nice.
Pre-pandemic or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Definitely that.
Yeah.
I know we co-hosted that Troy Gentry celebration of life thing. At
Yeah,
the
but
Opry
my
House.
God, surely I've seen you since then.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so. But regardless, it's just like we picked up right where we left off.
We're Okies,
That's
what we
we're
do.
going to talk with. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's one of the subjects. We're calling this segment with Blake Shelton, Crystal Balls, Flowers, Bars, and the great state of Oklahoma.
Okay.
So
It's catchy. It's a very catchy segment.
I'm trying to write a song, and I'll need some help with that. Let's start with Flowers first.
Okay.
A beautiful duet with you and Gwen called Purple Irises that we're playing a lot on the Big 615.
Thank you.
And I love the story that you guys actually transplanted an entire field of purple irises closer to your home in Oklahoma, and this is a real deal in your life.
It truly is, and it's turned into like this very like passionate, family thing that, Gwen is like the leader of this coalition to, I don't even know if that's the right word or not, but it is.
Flower Club?
Yeah. Well, and how it happened is, years ago when I first started bringing Gwen back to Oklahoma to kind of introduce her to this guy, that she needs to start learning about if she wants to have this relationship. And she's always loved flowers her entire life, and so when she started coming to Oklahoma and then spending time outdoors, I think the first thing she began to notice is it's so different from California as far as the plants and things. She's like, "Oh my God, what kind of flower is that? What is that?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know. I've never looked at them in my whole life. Just mow them down or they, drive over them. These flowers everywhere." And she really kind of opened my eyes to that because I've always been an outdoorsy guy. I love to hunt and fish. I spent 80% of my life outside, doing something.
But she's pointing out the pretty things.
Yeah, and I never, all this time, I literally am spraying these things, trying to kill them. And she's like, "Oh my God, I looked it up. That's a this or that." Well, I remember it was like probably 2018 or 19. There's this old abandoned house on our ranch, just like a lot of places in Oklahoma. You see these old barns and stuff, and there's a patch of irises. We used to call them flags when I was growing up. I do remember that, but there's this old patch of irises that's probably been there for 100 years. Who knows, because they just come back every year. And she was like, "Oh my God, those are just growing wild there?" And I said, "Yeah, there was an old house here, and she goes, "Well, we need to put those
closer to our house."
Yeah, closer to the house, and so there we were out there, pulling them out. They pull out pretty easy and bring them back to the house and put them in. And then the next year, because of wherever they were was kind of a shaded area, very like wooded area, they'd kind of got out in the sun, and these huge, big purple irises came out of these things,
Bigger and better than before.
They didn't even have flowers on them before. It was just the greenery, you know. And so we had no idea what color they were going to be. We didn't know anything about them. I'd forgotten about them, and I came home one day, probably close to this time of year, March or so, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell are those, And it really, like, if she hadn't have, put in the effort and got us, all the kids, everybody was digging these things up. It was just something to do one day and put them in. And now it's like,
it's a part of your life.
That's the family, like, purple iris patch, you know what I mean? It's right there in front of our house, and we see it, and it's just really cool. And so, I didn't know if you wanted me to go into this much detail about it. But
absolutely.
Then eventually, she's been writing. She's been trying to put together an album for a few years now. And one day she came in, and she had written the song Purple Irises. And I told her, I was like, "Man, there's something really special about that song, and it kind of has a little bit of country to it, but it's pop also. It's just got a lot of elements." And she had originally cut it by herself, and then I think a few months later, I'd probably gotten in her ear so much about that song, because I was like, "How are you going to,
That's
you need to put
our song."
I know, even though I had nothing to do with it. So eventually she asked if I wanted to sing on it, and of course I jumped at the opportunity, and here we are. You guys are playing it, and that's the fun thing, about this business is, there's just one day there's not purple irises, and the next day there is this song called Purple Irises that exists, and it's on the radio. It's pretty crazy, you know.
And the metaphor too, when it comes to the relationship part of the song, is just perfect. I mean, no relationship is perfect, and it all comes with doubts. It all comes with second guessing. It all comes with what ifs, and that's what the song's really about.
You know, it's really and she really leans into, you know, we're getting older, you know, and
Are you still going to like me?
Yeah, are you still going to like me when I get old? And you know, we are old now, so I guess that's the answer to that question.
And you're still liking each other.
Right,
so good. Congratulations on that. 1-5, Blake Shelton is with us. Thank you for the in-depth story on purple irises. That was really cool.
Yeah.
I'd read a little bit of it, but just the imagery. You do that all the time whenever we sit down and chat. You don't talk in conversations. You talk in portraits.
Wow. Write that down.
But it's true. It's like you paint a picture. I see everything that you talk about. I remember when we were talking about God's Country. And where you were on the back of the tractor listening to the song. I mean, I was there with you on your land when you heard that song, and it's a true story, too. More with Blake Shelton when we come back, right here on the Big 615. It's Storme on the Big 615, hanging out with Mr. Blake Shelton. All right, I said this is about flowers. This is about bars. This is about crystal balls. This is about the great state of Oklahoma. Let's go to part two. I'm going to call Great State of Oklahoma part two of this conversation.
All right.
I am honored, for one, to be welcomed into your fundraiser in Tulsa.
Master of ceremonies. Can
Whatever
we call you that?
I call myself a traffic cop.
Okay. That's probably more appropriate.
Court jester, ringmaster, whatever you want to call it. But the idea for this came from you, obviously. You wanted to do something to give back to the Country Music Hall of Fame, and I think the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame is involved a little bit, too. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, you know, it was originally put together, you know, for the Country Music Hall of Fame, and but you know, we're trying to make it as much as we can, just an Oklahoma event. You know what I mean? And you know, it's pretty crazy when you look down the list of artists that have come from Oklahoma. You know,
it's a huge list.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's a huge list, and it's a lot of superstars. You know, and so I try to put as much of that in there as I could.
March 30th is the date, and it's at the BOK Center in Tulsa. And it's an all Oklahoma benefit for the Country Music Hall of Fame. And so
I don't want to sell anybody short. Well, who we have is unbelievable. So I'm
my
happy.
gosh, the Swan Brothers, who I just love to death. You do too. Then we've got Wade Hayes.
Yeah, you know, Wade, you know, I saw Wade, I think it was last summer or the summer before last, ran into him. We were playing something somewhere in Washington or Oregon. I don't even know where we were. You know, the whole 90s resurgence thing is happening. And he told me, he said, man, I am busier now than I remember ever being. I have to tell him, I'm done. I don't want any more.
Kristen Chenoweth, who's just a spark plug. She's just a nutball in all the best ways possible.
All you got to do is say her name. Everybody
smiles.
Yeah.
I just have the image of her and the baby Bjorn on Trace Adkins at that award show. We'll see if we can reenact that one. And then Ronnie Dunn, of course. That's so cool. And then Hall of Famer Vince Gill just added onto the list.
Yeah.
So that's a great lineup. People are asking me all the time, are there going to be special guests? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. You know, it's still far enough away right now that I would say there's the possibility of special guests. Is, you know,
it's always there.
Yeah,
it's always there. Oh, and a guy named Blake Shelton, he'll be there too.
I'll be there. There. And Storme Warren will be there.
And I'll be there.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. I get to go back home. I grew up in Tulsa, so it's going to be kind of a neat thing to be a part of an all Oklahoma thing. More with Blake Shelton in just a few. This is the Big 615. Big 615. It's Storme and Blake Shelton. Okay, so we've crossed off flowers. We've crossed off the great state of Oklahoma.
Got it. Yeah.
We got bars and crystal balls. Which way do you want to go now?
Let's go crystal balls.
Let's go crystal balls. All right. Well, before we look into your crystal ball, I want to look backwards a little bit.
Right.
This amazing career, 28 number one songs, 23 seasons of The Voice. You have truly become a global superstar. So congrats on all of that. And now you're at an interesting spot in your life and your career. You do have an album coming. You are in the studio. I know you've been working on it for a while. You've got another tour coming this year, but the question I've heard you almost pose to yourself is, how much longer am I going to do this? Mm-hmm. Have you answered that question yet?
No. You know, I've been asking myself that for like 10 years now, I think, believe it or not. You know,
You're a young guy, so the fact that you would have an expiration date kind of blows me away.
I just never want to stay beyond when it's relevant. You know, that's just always been my thing. As much as I love country music and it's in my heart and there's nothing I can do about it, doesn't necessarily mean I want to force the issue onto fans or the business end of things or just the industry in general. I don't want to be, you know, trying to make this work when everybody else has moved on from it, you know, because I can still love country music at the house.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah, which you enjoy. You enjoy that time.
Oh my God! I would much rather just, you know, get in my truck and drive around the ranch and listen to country music than I would to hear myself sing it. You know, that's always been the case. You know, but I love to just indulge in it, and that's what I did. That's how this started for me. I was just literally such a fan that I just thought, this is what I should try to do, you know?
It takes a lot of courage to admit that you're going to reach a point where you're going to make the decision to step away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough. This is an ego-based business, and it's tough to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to take the proactive step in this.
Yeah. I don't know that it's anywhere really close, but it was tough to do that with The Voice, you know, because, you know, The Voice had been this incredible opportunity and gift, and it changed my life, and I would probably still be doing it today if I just hadn't felt like that, what I just said. You know, I kind of feel like it's just time.
Good on you I think a lot of people could probably take lessons from that in life. There is such a thing as holding on too long.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, you know, I started getting to the point where I felt like there were times where it would be like doing an interview like this, but with the producers of The Voice, something they were filming, and me just going, you know, how much longer? You know, like, what are we doing? How many times have I got? And it's like, I'm starting to turn into that guy on set that nobody wants to be around. It's like,
the diva stepped in.
Yeah, it's like, all right, I don't want to be this guy, you know. So
that's cool.
It's just burnout.
The self-evaluation is tough to do, and you seem to have it. You seem to have a good handle on it, which is pretty great.
Yeah,
that's cool. More with Blake Shelton when we come back. This is the Big 615. The Big 615. It's Storme and Blake Shelton doing a long overdue catch-up. So we got the crystal balls, we got the flowers, we got the great state of Oklahoma. Let's talk about some bars. I mean, Old Red continues to spread. Barmageddon is we still running with Barmageddon?
As far as I know, we are. We're still in the middle of it. We got to figure out when we're going to shoot, the next season of it, and that's always the tough thing, you know, is because you got to find out when that is, and then hope it lands in a window of time that, because it's not just me, you know. With Barmageddon, we got to figure out how to get all these celebrity guests in there.
Well, I hope to see a new season very soon. That's cool.
Yes, me too.
And has Old Red far exceeded your expectations of what that was going to be, that brand?
Really did, you know. And just like The Voice, you know, I passed on The Voice a couple of times before I decided I wanted to do it, you know, when they were still coming up with the concept of the show. And I kind of shrugged off Old Red, too. It shows you what a great visionary I am, right? And so Colin Reed kept coming to me.
With Gaylord,
and I say he kept coming to me. I think it was like a year's worth of him saying, would you just listen to me? I have this idea. And I'm going, man, a restaurant, like, I don't know. I mean, is that cheesy? All I could think of was Kenny Rogers Roasters. And I was going, man, I don't think that's, do we want to do that? That was good chicken, though.
That was good chicken.
No question about it. It's just gone now, you know. It's like, I don't know that I want that. And eventually, you know, we took a meeting. Narvel and I, my manager, went over to Ryman Hospitality office building over there by Opryland Hotel, and we got in a room kind of like this, and they had a projector, and they said, man, and first thing they put up there was that Old Red logo. And I was like, oh, that is kind of cool. Yeah. All of a sudden it was like, all right, I can picture that in a neon light, and it kind of changed everything.
I just want to leave the last question to you for it's good. And it's not to address me, but to address everybody listening right now with the new album on the way, tour getting ready to rock 2024. What do you want to say to everybody? That's like we got a lot of stuff coming, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have been recording. I don't know how many things I've got cut. Maybe enough to put an album together, but I don't have any like plans of it coming out. So I don't have an answer for that. And that's why I was excited about Purple Irises, the timing of it too. It was like, this is Gwen's record.
Yeah.
I get to be a part of it, and it was something we could work to country radio and AC and how whatever all those.
Remember, I'm Blake,
are,
the country singer.
That's right. That's right. And so it kind of gave me the chance to keep my neck out there a little bit, I still have time. I feel like to decide what I want to do with a record, and then with a tour. We actually started it. I don't know when this is going to air, but we started it last weekend, and we played the Houston Rodeo last night, which was a blast. It was the 6th time I've played that over the years.
Huge.
Yeah, and then we're going to actually end the tour with All for the Hall in Tulsa is the last show of the tour, and that's going to be a fun night that night. So prepare yourself. It's going to be fun.
I've hung around you long enough that kind of scares me with that warning. This has been awesome, Blake Shelton.
Thank you, buddy,
so much for spending so much time with us.
I don't get to do these things much, so
it means a lot that you're here in our Tractor Supply studios, and you like Tractor Supply.
Oh my God, they got all the supplies I need.
Everybody for life out here. It's Blake Shelton. This is the Big 615. I'll see you in Tulsa.
All right, buddy.
March 30th. Tickets on sale now. Ticketmaster.com. Let's raise some money for the Hall of Fame.